Well, hello everybody. How are we? I hope you're all safe and well. First of all, I want to say massive thank you to everyone for taking part in the Zoom rehearsals last week. The extended rehearsals seem to work really, really well for people, so we're going to continue with that. 50 minutes. The reason it's not an hour is because I can't hold my bladder closed for 3 full hours. I have to pee. So that's why it's so I've got a wee gap, go to the toilet, top up on my refreshments. Sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's gin. Today, Coke Zero. So well done for last week. Really, everyone took part of it. It was really, really good fun. And the most important thing for me, and I think for everyone else, was it was so nice to see everybody. It was just lovely to see all your faces and have a chat, have a laugh. For those who tried to get on and couldn't, I'm so sorry. For those who are not able to access the Zoom, please don't think that I'm relaxing on these videos. It's just very, very tricky to get things done, as we all know, especially with, for those of us who have children, which obviously, as you know, I do. Also, as well, we're worried about our dog. Our dog is not doing too good. I've had to take her back to my sister's. So, yeah, it's just, you know what it's like. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's crazy. That's what it is. Life is crazy right now. So, and my husband is working more than ever at the moment, and which is a good thing. But he's so busy, and I have to, and I am supporting him, as much as he supports me, and particularly kind of the last kind of like 10 days, he's really needed to sort of spend more and more time doing work. So, for those who are working from home, you know what it's like. For those who are working out with the home, I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say thank you so much for everything you do. I want to give a massive, massive shout out to people that are working in supermarkets and shops. I just think you guys are amazing, and I really, really am just amazed by how well frontline people in shops are keeping things going and keeping calm. It's amazing. And it goes without saying, those in the NHS are just phenomenal. We all know at least one person that is working in a high risk environment, whether it be NHS care, retail, essential retail, and things like that. It's just... Anyway, let's continue on. Now, I was going to say something, I can't remember what it was. Hang on a minute. Hang on. Nope. Can't think of it. I had something to say, and I can't remember what it was. There's no messages because of what I just said. At the times, I haven't really had a chance to go through lots of messages and choose ones and do pictures. It's just the days have gone past. Maybe that's what it was. Who else thinks this is going really quickly? Like, super fast? Like, where are we? What? We're in what, week 8? What? I don't understand. It's just so confusing. Like, how 1 minute you can feel like time has stopped, and you're like, okay. And the next minute you're like, what? I've not been to the gym in 8 weeks. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm glad the video stops there. Because it's just, I look like a big gay Buddha. Anyway, let's crack on. Very excited about the new song. For most of you, I think you will know now, it is a 90s mashup to remind you of the 3 songs. Number 1 is D-Ream, Things Can Only Get Better. Number 2 is people moving on up. And number 3 is Yaz, the only way is up. I thank you. I hear your applause and your whoops as we cheer. This is going to be quite fun, okay? I really hope you like this thing. I think you're going to like it. It's good fun. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's start with our warm-up. Puppet string, okay, puppet string. Pull up. Remember, if you can when you do these videos, try and stand to do the videos because it will, just because when we perform, those who can stand do, makes it a bit easier. But if not, that's okay, as long as you try and make your hips to your head the same with these sort of stand. So, let's have some stretches. Oh, I missed my chiropractor. And then we go. Oh. As I posted last week on Facebook, I need a massage and 28 days in rehab. Oh, okay. So again, look up. Good, and then relax. Keep your body still. Drop your chin into your collarbone. When it can't go any further, let your forehead just drop forward, and you should just feel a nice stretch into the top of your shoulders. Now I'll stay there because I'm just going to have a look at all your roots. Oh my! Oh, okay. You saw mine. Okay. Give your shoulders a wee roll. Excellent. So I want you to breathe in through your nose. Sigh. Breathe in through your nose. Sigh. Breathe in through your nose. And a long sigh. Okay, now breathe in through your nose. Breathe out to sss. Keep your face in a smile. Wonderful. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out to go. Wonderful. Let's do our sing. Breathe in through your nose. And sing. Excellent. Have a yawn. And then let's throw a firework in. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Let's do our 3 rules. Rule number 1, posture, slit your neck, diastema shoulders. Rule number 2, control the breath in, control the breath out. Yeah. And rule number 3, presentation of the sound. Like I said before, think of the shapes that you're making with your mouth. Here we go. After 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe. 2, 3, and 1. Breathe. 2, 3, and. Breathe. 2, improve, and 1. Breathe. 2, 3, and. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Woo! Workout City. Look at those go. Oh, no. Right, everybody, let's crack on with the song. Greetings, thine middles. Are we okay? Now, let's crack on with this, okay? Because there's a lot of kind of slight mathematics involved in this song. So let's have a look at the words, okay? And we have, the first thing in there is 90s mashup. That's the title. We're not going to sing that. That's just what it's called. Then we have moving on up. Now, there's 2 lines there, but really let's just think of it as one, okay? One times of it is moving on up, moving on up. Okay? Moving on up, moving on up. That's one. And we're going to sing this. Let me count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. However, we sing it in increments. Now, what we do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6, we sing it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 4, I'm not even going to edit that out because that is shameful, Greg. Shameful. The first 4. Moving on up, 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 moving on up. First 4. Just that, okay? Then what's going to happen is, for the next 2, we move up. Moving on up, moving on up, moving on up, moving on up. Then, for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a half, we move up again. So let me sing all this beginning for you, okay? Goes like this. Moving on up, 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 moving on up. Okay? Right? So that's what we're singing. Right? Okay? Okay? So, what we have, like I said to you, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times the start. No. 1, 2, up. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. There. Okay? So what we're going to do, actually, let's just call it 9. I think 9. We'll just do it 9. Here we go, right? And I'm going to sing the next bit for you, because what's happening is, if you look at the words, we've been broken down to the lowest turn, been on the bottom line, sure ain't no fun. We're doing our moving on ups all the way through that, but we're going to sing, but if we're to be evicted from our homes, then go back to moving on up, okay? Whilst other people are singing, we'll just move somewhere else. Things can only get better, Now I've found. Then we come in with the next bit. So it's a wee bit kind of complicated, but I'm going to sing basically from the beginning to the end of the moving on ups, right? And you'll get it. Of course you will. I believe in you. Moving on up, 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 but if we're to be evicted from our homes, moving on up, 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 moving on moving on up, 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 moving on up. Wow, that's actually what we're going to do, right? So let's just recap really quickly. From the beginning. Now, what I'll say to you is you'll need to rewind certain sections of this video many, like, you know, a few times. So let's see if we can just get write down what we're doing. So, the very beginning, moving on up. We sing the starting note there 4 times. Then we step up, sing it twice. Then we step up and recap. We sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. The 9th time, moving on up, out if we're to be evicted from our homes. Okay, the 9th time goes straight into, but if we're to be evicted. Moving on up, out if we're to be evicted from our homes. And then back to moving on up, okay? And the next, and it's the same. Moving on up. Sing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. Okay? So let's recap, shall we? You sing 4 moving on ups on the starting note. 2. Yeah. Then 9. But straight into better be evicted. Moving on up, but if we're to be evicted from our homes. Moving on up. 12 times that last time, okay? Let's see. Now, I'm going to make this smaller, just so I'm just making my score smaller, so I can. I'm going to do this. That's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to stretch it out so I can get it on 2 pages. Yes! Haha! Here we go. Page 2. There we are. So this is going to be from the beginning or to the end of doing the moving on up. This is the bit you'll have to, like, once we kind of like work out the numbers, rewind and go over that quite a few times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on up. 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 But if we're to be evicted from our home, moving on up. 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 Right. So what to do is rewind that, right? Rewind that and go over. Then what we have, now, if we look at the words, the first time we see things can only get better, now I've found, we don't sing that. We're still doing our moving on ups, okay? The highs sing that. But then if you look right after that, we have things can only get better, now I've found, with no gap in between, right? That bit we come in. And you will notice, now I've found, you're like, no, but the words are, now I've found you. Believe me, it's supposed to be now I've found. And this is what we sing. Things can only get better. Can only get better. Now I've you. I'm going to do that again because I think I just made up words at the end there. So you've got, and it goes, things can only get better. Can only get better. Now I've found. Listen again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Things Goodness me, everybody. Right. Rewind that and listen to it again. Notice things can only get better. Can only get is all the one note. Then better, 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 better. Now I'm found. Okay. Let's try from the beginning all the way to that bit. Okay. And again, these are the bits you'll need to rewind over and over. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on up, 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 moving on up. But if we're to be evicted from our homes, moving on up, 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 moving on up. Things can only get better. Can only get better. Now I find. Rewind that. Go over that as many times as you can, right? And then the next video, so I will literally do it in a day or two. Next video, we'll do the next bit. I'm very excited. Okay, right, see you in a couple of days. Love to all. Bye.